Hello, everyone. I am Beatrice Nyx, and welcome to Nyx at Night, a podcast where I'll talk about personal stories, thoughts, and if I say anything that's helpful for you, I'm glad it worked out. Most of this will just be rambling and personal stories. The way that I'm gonna kind of approach this podcast is that we're gonna be friends. But unfortunately, it's going to be like a one-sided friendship at the moment. But it's literally just me at night rambling, hence the name. But for today's episode, which is the very first one, so it's very exciting, I want to talk about how I literally have no idea what I'm doing with my life. And I feel like a lot of people that I know definitely feel the same way. So I'm 24 and it's still something I'm getting used to. A lot of times I feel like I'm 17, but I also would never hang out with teenagers, like, at all. Like, even in high school, I didn't really enjoy being around teenagers. But whenever I imagine myself in my 20s, I definitely thought it would be different. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of aspects of my life that I'm very much grateful for. I have an amazing fiance who I love very, very much. We live in our own apartment and I have a job that's, slightly what I wanted to do with my life and it pays well. I have good friends, but for the most part, I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, I think that stems from a lot of things. I think, comparison, comparing myself to others and such, I think will always be the death of me. I spend way too much time on social media, and I know I shouldn't, but with the type of job that I have, I kind of need to be a part of that. Not necessarily for my sake, because I'm not very active on social media. I'm definitely scrolling, but me posting myself, that's a different story. But I definitely have to be a participant of social media for my clients, just because I have to follow trends and figure out what will take off, what won't, and such. But then, I'm scrolling and I'll see someone from high school, middle school that has an amazing career, or they're traveling or they're performing, and they have this picture perfect life. And I know that we post based on how we want to be perceived. I definitely am someone that does that, but then I feel bad about myself and I don't want to. And I'm working on getting into that mindset where I don't feel bad about myself. And I think the whole I have no idea what I'm doing stems from a dark place, which we'll go there real quick. So trigger warning for people. In high school, I was not expecting to make it to graduation. I don't think I'll fully go into all the details and the sadness that happened. I genuinely didn't think I was gonna make it to high school graduation, which is why I didn't have much of a plan for myself. And then, life changed for me. And I worked on getting better. But still, what I chose to do in college was literally just based on what I felt comfortable with doing. I took a film class for 2 years of high school, and I really liked that. I liked editing, so I kind of pursued that in college, kept it up, learned some visual effects, which ultimately landed my job that I currently have, which I do enjoy. But with how I handled everything, I was just doing what I thought was expected of me. I finished college because I wanted to make other people around me happy. And I Never changed my major. Definitely changed my minor, like, a couple times. But it was all, like, roughly in the same thing anyway, so it wasn't that big a deal. As much as I wanted to take time off from school, I felt like so many people were never expecting that from me. So I didn't. And I kept going, even though with learning how to be an adult and dealing with the divorce of my parents and being the older sibling, I was mentally, like, unwell. And also coming out of the dark place I was in high school, it was a lot. But I didn't want to let people down, and I feel like people were counting on me, so I just kept pushing. And now I'm 24, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I know on paper, like, I seem like I have it together. I definitely do, and I get that. You know, I am engaged. And even with that, I have no idea what I'm doing. I do have people that I can go to and ask for help. I don't know. I feel like I should know. And it sucks that I don't. And I feel stuck a lot of the times because the person I wanted to be and the person I am now are not the same person. And I think that's kind of why I'm starting this podcast, to kind of get my creative juices flowing, because I once had a YouTube channel in high school, and that was, I think, what was not necessarily, like, keeping me alive, but it was a way for me to enjoy being with myself without fully hating myself. And I stopped that when I went to college for a variety of reasons, but, like, when I stopped doing that, a lot of my creativity died. Because I wanted to be a creative person. The main thing I wanted to work on is music, which I'm, like, kind of doing now, but I'm not super confident in it, if I'm going to be honest. I'm just trying to be the person I know I can be, if that makes sense. And it's really scary, definitely putting yourself out there on the internet and just ranting and rambling about your problems, because, you know, I think I'm a very cynical person, so I feel like no one cares. And that's true. No one cares. So why not? And I know for me, I'm definitely, like, a people pleaser. I care what people think, like, drastically. I take the CTA, which, for those of you who are not from Chicago, it's, like, public transportation. So I take trains and buses to get everywhere. And I feel like I'm taking up so much space, and I don't want to. I feel like people need to be honest. Be more honest and be, like, not brutally honest, definitely. Like, you can hurt people's feelings. Don't do that. But, like, honest in a sense of, I don't know what I'm doing, but what can I figure out for myself? And that's what I'm working on. I'm working on figuring things out for myself. And so I'm pushing myself to do better. And I feel like I have to stop trying to be this picture perfect person that I think people expect me to be. I get tired and I work like crazy. I have my main job, I do freelancing, I do all of this other stuff, and I feel like I don't give myself a break. But at the same time, I feel like I'm not doing enough. There's gotta be, like, a fine line for me to figure out, and you guys can come along while I figure that out. I think what's helping me through it is music. Music is definitely takes me to a place where when I hear someone singing about roughly what I'm going through, I feel less alone. I definitely feel less alone. One of my favorite artists that I'm listening to right now, her name's Yasmin Nur, and she wrote this song called My Favorite T-Shirt. And roughly what it's about, and I definitely recommend listening to it if you have a chance, but roughly what it's about is kind of what I'm talking about. That, you know, she didn't feel pretty, and she'll just wear this t-shirt over and over, and, you know, maybe if she was better, maybe if she was prettier, she would get better, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I definitely feel that. I feel like, not to hate on myself, and I don't want to be negative. I'm trying not to be negative, but to get to my point, like, a lot of the times I don't feel pretty and I don't like myself and I don't like what I'm doing with my life, but I have to change it. And so that's what I'm working on doing. I feel like a lot of my problems though stem from money. For people who say, you know, money doesn't buy happiness, they might just have too much fucking money. Because if I had like a bunch of money, it would fix a lot of my problems. Because then I wouldn't be stressed about paying for rent and figuring out if I have enough for groceries, because I then can put my time into things I actually want to be passionate about. Right now, for me, everything that I'm doing, like career-wise, I guess, I'm not happy anymore. It's draining. You know, I used to have a lot of passion and creativity when it came to things, and now I've definitely lost it. And then I see people who have 9-to-5s or who can travel and like who gets these houses, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? I'm definitely working on it. Hopefully over time I can come back and I'll be like, I know what I'm trying now. I've tried to get into the habit of following people who roughly like look like me, in the sense of they seem like a normal person and they seem like they're not posing for the camera and they're being a little bit honest. And then, you know, I have to get into the habit of being happy for others and not be jealous of the fact that I'm not there, because I'm on a different path and it may take longer for me and I have to be okay with that. But I also have to not slack off, because if I don't do anything, I'm never gonna get there. And that's another thing I'm trying to do. Because for me, like, even when it comes to like practicing an instrument or whatever, I'm like, if I'm not perfect, why not try it all? But obviously I can't get there if I don't try. So I think everything's a learning process. And for being 24, I keep thinking I'm running out of time or I'm out of time. Like my life is ending soon, essentially. In the sense that like I'm getting too old. Part of that comes from the younger generation on like social media. They automatically think like when you're like over 20, you're old, you're done. And well, partially I did used to think that when I was younger. I'm still young. 24 is still really, really young. And I'll be 25 at the end of this year. And I still think like being in your 30s is young too. I know people put Friends through the ringer a lot of times, and it has its issues in its own way. For me, watching Friends reminds me of when my parents were together and everything was fine. So I think that's kind of why I like watching Friends. It's very comforting for me. But the other thing about that is, you know, they were all, when the show starts, they're all in their like mid-20s when they're figuring out life. And the show ends when they're in, I want to say, early to mid-30s. And we see them go through changing careers, like with Rachel, who had no idea what she was doing with her life. And I'm like, honestly, same boat here. We see them figuring out relationships and friendships and, you know, dealing with parental issues and sibling rivalries. I had to say it like that because I needed to make sure I could kind of say it right. So it's definitely comforting to know that it's okay that I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'll get there. There will be a time where I can confidently say, I am this, and I am doing this, and this is what's next for me. But until then, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm still trying to figure that out. What I have right now works, but I don't think it's going to be forever. So that's all I had to talk about today. I do have a couple different podcast episodes planned. So if you'd like to hear what I have to say on future podcast episodes. I hope you stick around. You can also follow me on social media. On pretty much everything. I am at the Beatrice Nyx, the as in the Beatrice Nyx, as you would spell Beatrice Nyx. I am also working on getting my YouTube channel back up and started. It's currently up now. I have my 2 songs, so if you'd like to check those out, that'd be great. They're not the best, but I can't be negative on myself. I'm trying not to be. But they're my songs, so if you can, cool. If you don't like them, it's fine. I'll catch you next time on Nyx at Night. Have a good night.